One other thing, that just while we were sitting here talking about DCR, every time we talk about it, I get more and more infuriated. Somebody had said recently that they're back in the market of buying land again.
Buying land? I don't know that.
That's what I heard. And with them owning so much of our town already, is there some way that a bill can be filed that caps the amount of land they can own in any one town?
Sure. I would think you can file any bill. I think that's an interesting idea, because I filed a bill this year, as I filed it last time, in the last term, that would say that any community that has more than 30% of their land mass owned by the state or controlled by the state, or any of its agencies, instead of meeting the 10% for, for 40B, the percentage should be decreased to 5%. And while we seem to be struggling to get that through, because nobody wants to let go of the fact that 10% is, that they need affordable housing so badly, I think there'd be no reason to say if there's only a certain percentage of land that you can own in any town or control in any town without absolutely handicapping the town. I mean, you have... As
has been done in our case, 53% is owned or controlled.
Is that actually 53%?
It's 53 total, yeah. That's owned and controlled.
It might be even a little more than that.
Yeah. It's over 50. Yeah, depending on which number you use,
we have varying numbers and numbers.
But it is quite an amount. And again, if something, say, 30, 40% or whatever can be used as a figure, maybe we can at least survive as a town. Because if this continues and they keep buying, this might as well be the town of Massachusetts.
Mr. Gamon would probably have the more accurate number of this.
All right.
Because
somewhere in that
he just did a big report for us.
If you can get that to me, I would appreciate it. I would be happy to file it. I think the one problem I must tell you is that it's going to be a late file, which means that God knows what will happen to it, whether it will ever get out of a docket number.
Would you think that waiting till the next legislative session till next year would be...
I say warm them up this year and then go hit them for the home run next year.
We can't do it until 2008, and that's too long to wait, I think. That's way too long to wait. So I think it makes sense. If 53% of your land is owned by the state, you don't have too much to deal with. And what percentage of it is already are housing on it, and then how much is left of that? Not too much.
Nothing left here.
Not too much.
Nothing left.
So what percentage do you think is the appropriate number?
I would look, if you were going to put a cap on there,
yeah,
I would go somewhere around 30 to 40%
But you're way over that.
I know. That means they got to give some back to the town.
Okay. All right. What do the rest of you agree with 30 or 40%? But you got to give me a number. We'll do this bill.
35%.
Okay. 35?
I believe they own 2/3 of the town, pushing 3/4.
It's more than what you realize.
It's more than 53?
It could be.
Because they made other acquisitions since that we've had that information that we don't know about yet. We haven't been informed yet, government moves slow.
So when you take that, you take the county house of corrections, you take everything and take it, there's nothing left in this town.
Plus, you have to remember, we also have the Cohen Act that also controls a lot
Cohen
more land.
bill?
They don't necessarily own it, but they control it.
It
You
means
can't
that
build
you're not
anything.
able.
You can't build anything on it, but...
That's
so
400 feet from...
Oh, I'm very familiar with that piece.
You get to own it and pay taxes on it, but you can't do anything. So it's...
And it's the same with the power lines going through the town.
Yeah. I'm just wondering whether we should also put into a bill that a cap of 35% of the land, but in a situation such as yours, where you have so much water here, that we shouldn't say something about that too.
Mr. Chairman, through you, I think that probably a better idea would be, instead of saying that it's state-owned land, non-taxable land, I think, because there are other communities that may have, say,
It's a very good idea.
federal-owned properties that is a significant portion. I think of the Cape Cod National Seashore, those communities out there were, literally half of their communities are
It's controlled by
are
someone.
federally owned. And so I'm thinking, non-taxable land, if you have a significant portion of your town or city, non-taxable properties, you're accomplishing probably the same thing, but
That's a
not
very good point.
handcuffing yourself to just the
Yeah.
state-owned piece. We'll get more other communities who might be interested
Support
in
us,
this
yeah.
to support this, making it more likely that this would pass.
Perhaps even a point in there that says if they do own over that, they have to pay the fair market value of the land.
But,
Let's try to get a bill we can pass.
Well,
Let's,
well, you might as well put
We've gotta
everything in there and
put-
then
we've
let
gotta
them
put the
whittle it
provision.
down. And once they whittle it down, it may be what we want.
I mean, I think the problem is, they might accept put the cap of 35%, but what about a town like yours that has more? What do they do then?
Yeah.
And you've got to really deal with that opportunity. What do they do then?
Either turn it back to the town or pay us for it.
No, I think through you, Mr. Chairman, I think for the purpose of this affordable housing discussion, I
That-
think, which is the purpose why we're looking at this, I think that, and I know, I want to credit, by the way, he's not here, but school committee man, Mr. Baker, has been spearheading this on behalf of the townwide planning committee
For a long time.
for years. So I want to give credit where credit is due as well. I think that if you talk about tax exempt land, 35% of using your number sliding down to, say, 5%, and if you're over 50% of your town is non-taxable, I think that you should be exempt from the provisions of 40B.
I like that better.
Because if you have half of your town restricted for,
Anything.
that means the rest of the town becomes much more valuable. It makes it harder for us to bring in economic development. It makes it harder for us to find areas where the town can put its own developments, i.e. Town halls or schools or whatever. You know, the land becomes much more valuable. I really think that, you know, if you get over a certain threshold, it should be exempt from the provisions of Chapter 40B. And there aren't that many communities in the Commonwealth that will find themselves into this category, that it should scare off the Worcesters, Springfields, Bostons, Fall Rivers, Lawrences of the Commonwealth. I mean, I can only think of a handful of communities that would probably even approach the 50% of their land mass being non-taxable. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Through you, Mr. Chairman, I would like to, I think that's a very good idea. And I think that I've been following the discussion of your 40B problems here, which are very serious problems. And I think you've actually going through all of the reasons for what can be waived and what can't be, has been very helpful, I think, to the people of the town. And you're right on.
Well, we're still